Hello guys, it's WezTZK and today I'm going to be doing a Killing Floor 2 music tier list. Now due to Killing Floor having a lot of soundtracks, I'm only going to be doing the composers, not the actual music itself. So of course here we've got things like Fit for a King, Living Sacrifice, Demon Hunter, Rocky Grey, all the composers of Killing Floor rather than the actual song itself because I'm going to be here all day. And I just realised my A tier was missing. There you go. But yeah, rather than going through each and every song saying, oh yeah, this is a good song, that's not too bad, oh that's a bad song, that's good, I don't really want to do that. I'm going to be here all day and just going to be repeating myself. So instead I'm going to be doing the composers for the game instead, just to make things interesting. And I'm also going to be including the Killing Floor 1 composers because they're basically the exact same, such as Dirge, Synthetic. They basically were in Killing Floor 2 as well, so I mean you can include both of them. So first of all we have Bruce Fitzhugh and Jeremiah Scott, and you probably don't know these guys, but they basically made songs like Defend the Crown, Made for War, and to be fair that's the only two songs they've actually made from the original soundtrack. So I mean I'm gonna put it in A tier. They don't have bad music, but you don't hear them very often, so a couple more soundtracks would be quite nice. They do have some good music, but there's very little of it. Coming up next is Fit for a King, and I'm actually going to give this the exact same tier. Again, there's not very many soundtracks for Fit for a King, but they do have more memorable songs than Jeremiah and Bruce. One of my favourites being Bitter End. I do quite like that song they've done. Coming up next is Living Sacrifice. Again, is about an A tier. They've not got bad music, but there's not very many soundtracks. Just like Bruce and Jeremiah, they've made a few soundtracks, but not really made very much. Although the music that Living Sacrifice produced is quite decent. One of my favourite Living Sacrifice music is Something More. That's a really good soundtrack. Along with Despair, that's also quite a good one. Coming up next, we have Impending Doom. And again, this falls in the same boat. There's not very many Impending Doom soundtracks, but they're still pretty good. Impending Doom did the soundtracks like Ravenous Disease, Murderer, which is quite a decent soundtrack, but it falls under the same issues as the others. There's just not very many soundtracks. I would love to hear more of their soundtracks, but Tripwire just didn't add them in. They have some really good music. I'm not putting them in A tier because they're bad. They do have really good music, but there's just not very much of it in Killing Floor, as they've only really made like 2 songs in the original Killing Floor 2 soundtrack. So coming up next is Demon Hunter, and this is definitely an S tier. Unlike the other 4 bands, they've made a lot of music. In the original soundtrack for Killing Floor 2, we got 5 soundtracks: Death, Not I, Collapsing, We Don't Care, Infected. Some really decent soundtracks, not to mention they've also done more, such as Someone to Hate. Most of the soundtracks I hear in Killing Floor 2 is from Demon Hunter, and they're really good, really catchy. And funny enough, Killing Floor 2 actually introduced me to this band. I actually listened to some of their music outside of Killing Floor 2 as well. I quite like their music. It's funny because if it wasn't for Killing Floor, then I would have never known about this band, and they are really underrated. Not many people know them. Most people find them from playing Killing Floor, but they honestly do deserve a lot more subscribers, a lot more recognition, because their music is quite decent. Coming up next is Rocky Grey, and I mean, I kind of like Rocky Grey, but at the same time I don't. I mean, I feel like Rocky Grey's replaced Synthetic, like, in a bad way. I think Tripwire just sort of got rid of Synthetic and was like, right, Rocky Grey, you make the music now. That's the only thing I can really critique Rocky Grey on, but I don't think that's really his fault, so I'm still going to give him an S tier. He does make some good soundtracks. Rocky Grey's responsible for all of the seasonal music in Killing Floor 2. He's also done some Killing Floor 3 soundtracks as well, such as Search, Destroy, Repeat. He's even done the Nightfall theme, which, as much as I would like to see Synthetic return, he has made a good job on those soundtracks. Coming up next is Dirge, and this is definitely an S tier. Whenever someone mentions Killing Floor 1, the first thing that maybe comes to mind is Disunion Reconstructed. directed by Dirge. It's such an iconic soundtrack, it basically gives Killing Floor its identity. It's a shame that the band split up, because honestly their music was so good, it basically fits with Killing Floor. Basically without Dirge I don't think Killing Floor would be where it is in terms of the soundtrack. Last but not least, we have the legend himself, Synthetic. Obviously this one is going to be an S tier. Most of the Killing Floor 1 soundtrack was made just by Synthetic. He's even done some Killing Floor 2 music. Basically anyone who listens to the Killing Floor music will already know who Synthetic is. He's basically like the main lead for the music, except in Killing Floor 2 he sort of took a back seat in terms of music design, but he still played his part in it. And the work he did in Killing Floor 1 is irreplaceable. He got soundtracks like Pathogen, Abandon All. Brings back so many memories of the old Killing Floor 1 days, and I feel like that's just really irreplaceable. You can't really beat it. That's what makes Synthetic's music so iconic in Killing Floor 1, and basically Killing Floor in general. So yeah, that is the Killing Floor soundtrack tier list. And to be fair, there's no actual bad soundtrack in Killing Floor. Like, all of them sound really good. Although I would like more music from like Fit for a King or Living Sacrifice, as I feel like most of the music was just Demon Hunter and Synthetic and stuff like that. A couple more soundtracks from them would be quite nice, but to be fair, their music is already quite good, so I don't really mind too much. But yeah, B, C and D are all empty because every soundtrack in Killing Floor is just brilliant. I don't really have any critiques on it. Also, I do hope to see Synthetic return at some point in Killing Floor 3. I'm sure he will, because he's basically iconic in Killing Floor. I know quite a few people have been asking where he is, and I'm sure he will return at some point. But yeah, that is the Killing Floor soundtrack tier list. Like I said before, I'm only doing the composers because there's loads of soundtracks for Killing Floor. I'd be there all day. It'll just end up being very generic and repetitive if I end up going through every single song, which is why I did the composer. But yeah, this is it from me. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to like and subscribe. I have a Discord as well if you want to keep up to date with the latest uploads and stuff like that. Do check it out. But yeah, this is it from me, and I will see you next time.